Good day. I am John Fajardo and will report on stakeholders' model of corporate social responsibility. I will be discussing the objectives of this report, the meaning of stakeholder model in the context of corporate social responsibility, benefits, challenges, as well as use cases of this model, reflections, and references. At the end of this presentation, we have to ensure that we understand the stakeholder model of corporate social responsibility and determine the benefits and weaknesses of the model, and at the same time, relate the learnings in an organization. Let's start by defining stakeholder, which, according to Crowther in Aras in 2014, is defined as any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of organization's objectives or decision making. The identity of stakeholders differs from various companies. However, it can broadly be classified into internal or external. Internal can be the board of directors, the managers and employees of the company, while external may include customers, local communities where facilities are located. It could be indigenous communities, investors and shareholders, suppliers, government agencies, professional groups, media, and even competitors. It is common to identify where an individual or group belong in a particular stakeholder. However, it should be noted that there are the so called multiple stakeholders, where a person can be an employee and also a member of an organization, stakeholders, with interest, for example, on environmental preservation. Stakeholder model is one of the four approaches of corporate social responsibility of an organization. The company should be driven by the interest of their stakeholders instead of interest of the stockholders alone or the investors as opposed to classical model. The other two models are social demandingness model, where corporations promote and protect certain interests of the general public, and social activism model, where there exists universal standard that determines corporate conduct independent of the interest of the stockholders. These three other models will be discussed extensively by my other group mates. Stakeholder model underpins the consideration of all stakeholders in the decision-making process. Theorists of this model claim that the companies have a duty to uphold the rights of major stakeholders. There are questions such as: is it morally and ethically correct? Thus, doing it also benefits the shareholders? Does it reflect the actuality of what happens in an organization? Therefore, a stakeholder managed organization balances the interests equitably of the diverse and including conflicting interests of each stakeholders for the purpose of improving financial performance. Now let's take a look on the benefits of this model. First, this can lead to a strong company image that can lead to increased sales. Companies are more powerful and resilient to attack from outside groups due to considerations of stakeholders. It can attract investors due to improved image and relationship with stakeholders. For example, the Petroleum would have been far better off with their business performance if management had listened to and addressed the safety concerns raised by the key stakeholders. Second benefit of this model is that companies can achieve superior level of long-term performance for the company and the society. But Stone points out to a company like Johnson and Johnson as an example of corporation who practices this model that has maintained a strong brand and remained profitable. Another benefit is higher productivity and engagement. Improved morale among workers or employees can lead to higher productivity. Company would also benefit from lower staff turnover and consequently lower recruitment and training costs. In the case of Starbucks, the stakeholder approach focused on employees that allowed better working conditions, job security, higher wages, and even offer scholarship for its employees. Lastly, stakeholder model can lead to better community relationships. As a consequence, companies have easier and quicker approval of plans through the planning process. It can also offer health, safety, and environmental benefits. In other cases, it can improve relation with the regulators. One example is Petróleos Mexicanos or Pemex, a company in Mexico that identified and addressed its interest groups that include the indigenous communities, civil society, governments, media, suppliers, and customers. These benefits are mostly intangible and normally would take some time to realize the impact. Thus, appropriate timelines as well as evaluations of risk and effects should be done. Some theorists, however, argues that stakeholder model strength are also subject to challenges or weaknesses. For instance, the use of this model may not necessarily result in a long-term profitability. According to Auperle et al., there is no relationship between social responsibility and profitability. This implies that long term benefit and profitability cannot be guaranteed. One use case is PEMIX, which was previously discussed to have a strong partnership with stakeholders. Despite decreasing investment to CSR, the company has maintained high level of engagement. The company still achieved that higher level of integration with the communities despite decrease in CSR investment from 3.2 to 1.67 billion Mexican pesos. Opposite or colliding stakeholder rights is another weakness of this model. Decisions are very challenging to derive due to opposing interests of stockholders and employees. Brown and Forstier offers perspective on how far a company should be expected to go in pursuit of CSR initiatives vis-a-vis its role to business and stakeholders in the society. Stakeholders' prioritization of each company makes standardization of decision difficult, according to Batstone. Although some companies were successful in mitigating the challenges posed by stakeholder model. Johnson & Johnson was successful in balancing the decisions in offering to various stakeholders which include the customers, co-workers, management, local communities, and shareholders. Another example is Pertamina, a petrochemical company in Indonesia that focused on the quality and the nature of partnership among relevant stakeholders. In summary, stakeholder model posits the ethical framework beyond profit and legal obligations. For instance, Lofty and Kornyawati argues Pertamina Company values nature of partnership as a critical factor in the success of the CSR. Stakeholders that share value in community development, environmental sustainability, and ethical business practices are core tenets of CSR. The second aspect of this model is the belief of having one solution for a successful business, which is actually wrong. The failure to identify the right stakeholders and the challenges on prioritization to whom the organization has ethical responsibility could lead to negative business results. And lastly, the investigation on the effects of CSR activities on the value and reaction of different stakeholders is crucial in order to maximize the optimal impact of the stakeholder model in any company. Corporations can consider stakeholder model in CSR activity based on the theoretical and learnings from different companies. Thorough analysis through proper identification and prioritization, as well as the nature of partnership relevant to the stakeholders, can lead to long-term benefit to the business and its stakeholder. As for the discussion, can you share additional information on the benefits and challenges of stakeholder model, or would you recommend stakeholder model in your organization? Why or why not? If you are not connected to any organization, would you not consider stakeholders model in CSR? These are the references. Thank you and looking forward for our discussions.